Okay, and now I would like to introduce our guest speaker today. She is Viki Fagyal. She is an author and longtime St. Louis Genealogical Society member. And she is going to talk to us today all about this fantastic lineage program for those of us who have those early St. Louis ancestors. So, Viki, you can take it away.
Okay, hang on a second. Let me see if I can figure out how to do. But I want to get rid of my picture. I think that's a stop. Is that a stop video?
That's a stop video. Yep.
That's a stop video. Okay,
Got
hang
it.
on. Nah, almost
Okay.
getting there. Stop video. Yay. Okay.
Okay. There we go.
There we go. All right. I'd like to welcome everybody to this webinar about St. Louis Genealogical Society's First Families program. This program's been in existence for more than 20 years, and I can't even count how many people have applied for membership with their ancestors in our First Families program. So let's get right into First Families. First of all, the handout is located on our Genealogical Society webpage. However, it's a very long URL, as you can see. And Robin sent you the URL in the invitation to today's lecture. So that's probably a better place to go get it. The reason I didn't do it as a standalone handout is that it is lots of pages that contain information about how to apply, what kind of sources you can use, what kind of sources you can't use, and how to do source citation, which is very important to the First Families program. So, and I believe it's also in I think the handout URL is also in the Q&A if you want to look there. So let's get started. So what exactly is a lineage society? Well, lineage societies are clubs, groups, and organizations that you are eligible to join or not based on your direct bloodline ancestry. There are hundreds of lineage societies in the United States and all around the world. Lineage societies such as St. Louis Genealogical Society First Families program is based on the family being in a specific place at a specific time. And many genealogical and historical societies have programs such as ours, which place an ancestor in their locale at a specific time. Organizations such as General Society of Mayflower Descendants receives members who can trace their direct lineage to Mayflower pilgrims. There are also lineage societies or organizations that trace direct bloodlines back to either Civil War or Revolutionary War soldiers or patriots in the United States. The DAR, Daughters of the American Revolution, is an organization for women, and the SAR, Sons of the American Revolution, is the society that's for men based on direct lineage to a Revolutionary War soldier or patriot. For Civil War organizations, there are organizations that exist for both descendants of Union and Confederate soldiers. And keep in mind that any lineage society requires you to prove one generation at a time, direct blood relationship to the next generation. So there are two ways to get started with your First Families application for St. Louis Genealogical Society. You can go to www.stlgs.org, and that's the main webpage for the St. Louis Genealogical Society. And you'll see that red arrow down at the bottom left column of the screen, and it is pointing to the words First Families. And that's the first way you can go to get information about First Families. Or if you prefer, you can go to the ribbon and click on resources, and then you click on services, and then you click on First Families of St. Louis. Either way, it's going to take you to the same exact page. So it doesn't matter which way you go. On the first page of the website, you'll see that there's an arrow that says read more about first families by clicking here. And clicking here is in blue so that it kind of stands out to make it clear. It is a link. It'll take you directly to where you want to go. So please, again, and you're going to hear me say these words again and again and again. Straight line blood descendancy is necessary for becoming a part of the First Families program. You can click on the different categories you see here: founding families, or pioneer families, or immigrant families. That'll take you to a different place of information and give you more information about that also. This is the page that it will take you to, that in either one of those two ways will take you to, that describes the requirements for membership, the procedure for your application, and the sources for appropriate documentation. That's one of the most important pieces, is that sources for appropriate documentation, because some things that people want to supply us with, we don't accept as documentation for your lineage. For instance, census records are not documentation of your lineage, because you don't know who gave the information. There's not enough direct information on there. And so it's just not acceptable. It is acceptable to tell you that, your family was in St. Louis at a specific time, but it doesn't prove your lineage. So that's important to be aware of. So you can click on the categories down here and to see who has joined First Families under each of those categories. And let me go and show you a little bit more before we get to that talks about, you have to be a member of St. Louis Genealogical Society at the time of your application. And to be a member of the society, membership is $40 for a single person, or $45 for a family, husband and wife. Or you can certainly have other higher levels of membership if you desire, but $40 will get you there. Then you need to provide direct bloodline descendancy from your early St. Louis residents in one of the three categories. Founding families is from 1765 to 1804. Pioneer families are from 1805 to 1821. 1821 was statehood. And immigrant families come from 1822 to the 31st of December, 1865. So if you want to see if anybody else has joined First Families under the person that you want to join under, you can get to that by clicking on one of those three founding, pioneer, or immigrant families links that are above, right under the flag on this page. If you're looking for your founding family because they're way back in St. Louis history prior to 1804, click on that one first, and then come forward with those. You'll see the words member only. If you are a member of the society, you can get further information, and I'm going to show you what you can get in a minute. If you are not a member of the society, this is what you are going to see, and this is as far as you can go. So it will tell you the name of the person who submitted the application. It will tell you the name of the ancestor that they went all the way back to, but it will only then say members only. If you click on, if you're a member and you click on where it said members only, this is the kind of descendant list you're going to see. This is my family. I was doing an immigrant family. Peter Henry Wilson came to St. Louis about 1850, and it comes all the way down through the family to me. And that's what you see. So not a lot of information, but enough to help you figure out if it's really your family. And that's important. There are many, 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 I can't tell you how many families who have joined First Families. So it's always worth taking a look at to see if that family is in there. The one thing I will tell you is that, like I said, this program is more than 20 years old, and some of the people who have joined First Families are no longer with us. And so I can't get permission for you to be able to see information from them. So, if it's somebody that you see that you want to connect with, if we can still find them and connect with them, what we can do is give them your email address and see if they're willing to connect with you. But we can't give you their email address. We can't give you an address or a phone number, that kind of thing, for you to be able to connect with them. So the application form is available either in our office, which is open on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday mornings from 9 a.m. to noon. However, if there's any kind of bad weather, we are not a bad weather society. So the society website at www.stlgs.org will have on the very front page of the website, it will tell you that the office is closed. You can also just call the office and see if it rings and rings and rings. And if it rings and rings and rings, we are probably not open, because there's always somebody sitting at the front desk to answer the phone. So you could come in and get the application that way, or you can download the application from the website. So you start by selecting the category that you're interested in applying for. That would be founding, pioneer, or immigrant, based on the time frame when your ancestor got here. Then you date the application and you add your membership number. The membership number seems to be confusing to many people. If you get your quarterly by mail, you get a paper copy of the quarterly in the mail, your membership number is on your mailing label. And your membership number is the first letter of your last name plus 3 digits, 3 numbers. So that's how you'll recognize it as a membership number. When you join the society, you got an email. And on that email, when you joined, it had your membership number. I joined so long ago, email didn't exist. And so, if I needed to, I can call the office and somebody at the office will be happy to help you determine what your membership number is. So don't panic about your membership number, but it is on the application form. If you're coming into, oh, wait a minute, back up a second. If you are coming into the office and you want to get help with your application, I'm going to suggest to you that you really want to talk to somebody who's on the committee, because we know the rules and we're going to help you so that you understand why we can or cannot do something. So the committee is only a 3-member committee, but I would recommend that you call ahead to make sure that one of the 3 of us is going to be at the office. And if we're not, you can always make an appointment and come in, at a future time, and we will help you. But talk to somebody who's on the committee. That's just my recommendation. So you're going to add your full name to the application, including maiden names for women. And you're going to add the name of your spouse. And we want your phone number, we want your address, we want your email address. If you joined the society using a different name or a different email address, somewhere on the form, please indicate that, because we may have you listed as a member, not as under the name that you filled out for applicant name. So it's really important that we know the name and email address that you applied for membership under. Also, you're going to put the name of the ancestor that you want to honor. And although it says founding ancestor on the form, that would be either the immigrant, pioneer, or founding ancestor that you're going to honor. But please put the name the way you want it to appear on the certificate that we're going to send you, because that's where we're going to get the information from. So we want it to be exactly what you want as how it's going to appear on your certificate. So that's the only ancestor that pioneer, immigrant, or founding ancestor is the one that you have to place in St. Louis at or before the time period for the group that you want to get into. Okay, now moving right along to the application form. Wait a minute. Yep, that's it. Okay. Before you start completing the application, go to the First Families page and the sources for appropriate documentation. You're going to hear me say this over and over again. It's just so important that you have the correct sources for documentation for your family. So you want to click on the PDF of what is acceptable proof and download that PDF and read through it carefully. Remember, I said a census record doesn't count for documentation of lineage. So if you put that, we're going to come back to you and say, we need other proof. That one doesn't work. So it's important that you try to use direct evidence because direct evidence is best. But indirect evidence may be acceptable when you use it with other documents to prove your point. And we'll talk more about indirect evidence a little bit later. But when combined with other documents, indirect evidence may prove the point you're looking for. All documents must be large enough and clear enough to be legible. And if your documents are written in a foreign language, they are unacceptable unless you provide a written translation of the document. That would mostly be because the 3 people on our committee all speak English and don't speak foreign languages. So we need it to be translated for us. Failure to provide proper documentation can delay your application being approved. And so we don't want to do that. We want your application to go through as smoothly as possible. So let's look at this examples of acceptable documentation. They include things like birth and death certificates, baptismal records, church or synagogue records, deed records, divorce records, well-documented and sourced manuscript collections, such as diaries or letters. Other forms that are acceptable are marriage records, military records, pension records, naturalization records, probate records, and Spanish land grants. Some records provide proof of residence, but not of lineage. So those would include, like I said, census records, but also things like land grants, maps, atlases, and things like that. Records that are not acceptable for proof of lineage or residence include family histories that are not documented with documents that prove the lineage, find a grave, interment.com, billion graves, an index of any kind, lineage applications that don't have the original documents attached to them that you had to attach to get into that lineage society, and obituaries, online family history trees, or school records are not acceptable at this point. And you're going to find all of that listed on our website so that you can see that. On the First Families page, be sure to read that sources for acceptable documentation or appropriate documentation. That's where the arrow is pointing here. And because not following that, it could cause a delay. And we really don't want that to happen. So there's a whole PDF that talks about what is and is not acceptable documentation for you to be able to go through and read. On our website, there's also a video that will, if you want to read the video, or I'm sorry, watch the video, you can do that. And that may help you to see it in a different way. So that's a good thing also. So from one generation to the next, you must prove with documentation. So please do not send us original records. We don't want to be responsible for your original records that, could get lost in the mail or something. So only send us photocopies of your documents because those are going to be fine. Underline or draw an arrow to the area that proves relationship, dates, or locations, but please do not highlight the information. Every document must have source information, including the name and location of the repository, the date of the record was copied, the certificate number, the microfilm number, etc. A published work such as a marriage record or a baptism record or a birth or death register also needs to be cited by their title, the author or the department, if it's a record that was created by a city, town, or county government, the date it was published, the volume, and the page. And please identify each source document by a generation number. I'm going to show you that in just a second. For assistance with your source citations, you can go to our website and click on resources, then you click on this site, and then you click on citations, a guide. There's a whole listing of different kinds of records on our source citation guide that you literally can copy them and paste them and just put your information into the blanks on the form. So it is a good way for you to be able to source your documents if you're having trouble with sourcing documents. If a family member has been accepted into First Families and you want to work on their line, that's fine. But like I said, you have to be able to get permission from them to either use their record or, if it's somebody that you may not even know, but they've done your line, we have to contact them to get permission for you to use their information, and we may or may not be able to contact them. So, if we do contact them, we're not going to give them, we're not going to give you their email address or their phone number. If you want to use their information, we're going to give them your name and your way that you want us to have them contact you. And it's going to be up to them to contact you so that we stay out of the middle of that. And again, you have to have their permission. If it's your brother's family, you have to have permission from him to use his information. Okay. Your application must include every generation from you all the way back to the ancestor that you're honoring. Even if you're connecting to somebody else's genealogy, or somebody else's application, you still have to have your application completely filled out. This is where, remember I told you you're going to have a document number. This is where we're going to get into that. So you're generation number one. You're the applicant, you're generation number one. So you add your date and place of birth and your date and place of marriage, and then you identify the documents that prove those dates and places and the documents that prove the relationship from one generation to the next. You number each document using the generation number in the order of the documents. So you're generation one. Every document that proves anything about you starts with the number one. And the first document is probably going to be a birth certificate or a baptism record, which would be document 1-1, generation one, first document. A marriage record might be document 1-2, generation one, second document. And you're going to do that throughout the whole application. And so you're going to put that document number and what it is, death certificate, birth certificate, that kind of thing. You're going to write that in what is the document. For each succeeding generation, you're going to provide that same information. The full name of females needs to include their maiden name, and the name of the spouse is mandatory. You do have to provide the spouse's name. Even though you're not going down the spouse's line of their linealogy, you're going through, for instance, mom's line, you still have to put the spouse's name on the application. But no other vital information needs to be provided for that spouse, because we're going to pick him up from the marriage of, I keep saying him, but it could be a her. Whoever is the applicant's parent that you're putting in and the spouse, we're going to pick up their marriage date under the applicant's parent's full name. So you're going to, for that parent, you're going to put in their birth and marriage and death date. If that person is still living, you just write living under where it says date, date of death, and move on to the next generation. So then you'll see there's you're going to do that for each generation all the way through. The earliest generations, you may not find a birth or death record that will exist, but you can look for things like a baptism record or a marriage record or land record, a will, or some sort of similar documentation. We've even had people use original Bible records if they've got them to prove births and even marriage dates. So if you've got that, if you are lucky enough to have that old family Bible, then you can use that as your as proof also. So at the end of the application, you're going to sign it, you're going to date it, and there's a checkbox that says you're giving us permission to publish the names of any deceased person and the name of the applicant and ancestor provided in their application. We do put the names of everybody who has been accepted into First Families and the ancestor, their furthest back ancestor. We put that in our program for the Family History Conference every year, just because it's interesting for people that attend the Family History Conference to see, hey, that's my relative too. I might be eligible for First Families. And so that's why we want permission to use your name and that furthest back ancestor's name for publication. Okay, you're going to submit your completed application along with your non-refundable application fee of $30 and all photocopies and source citation information to First Families of St. Louis at our office. We are located in Maplewood in the Sunnon Industrial Court, and our address is 4 Sunnon Drive, Suite 140. Like I said, we're in Maplewood, St. Louis, 63143. We can see Big Bend from our office. That's how close we are to Big Bend. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at, I told you we were going to see a completed application. This is Kay Weber's application. Some of you may remember Kay was a president of our society about 3 years ago. And so this is her Irish ancestor, Bernard King. That's the person that she's honoring. So all the information is included, and she designated she's applying for immigrant families, and the ancestor being honored is Bernard King. That's the bottom arrow down at the bottom. And she included her STLGS membership number. Again, if you can't find your membership number, give us a call. We'll help you with that. That's easy enough to do. Women, again, be sure you include maiden names on all of the forms that you send us. I will say that in this case, later on, you're going to see we redacted some information that would be a little too identifying for Kay's application. So there's some information that you're going to think is missing, but it's because we redacted it. So in Generation 1, Kay is the person who's in Generation 1. So she included her date in day, month, and year format and the complete place for each event. For documentation, she listed her birth certificate, which was numbered 1-1. That's kind of hanging off the page right above that birth certificate. So I actually pointed the arrow to document 1-2 so you could see what I meant by Generation 1, document 2. And that's the church marriage record. She could have also used the civil marriage record, but in her case, she had the church marriage record, and so she used it. Then she explained which document proves relationship to her mother. And like I said, there's some information that has been redacted out of Kay's application just for privacy concerns. So Generation 2 moves on to Kay's mother, Dorothy Marie Walton, and you see in parentheses Hogan. and Dorothy Marie Walton Hogan married Raymond Tolster, Kay's father. Dorothy was raised by her stepfather, a Mr. Hogan, and she took his name when she was a small child, but no formal adoption process ever took place. It was a very informal thing. She started using his name in school when she was a young child. So the whole family knew that Dorothy was born a Walton and changed her name to Hogan, but we don't have a document that shows us that. We just have that the family told us that that's what happened. The documents are numbered. I showed you that. Again, I'm pointing at the top to document 2-1, which was the Missouri birth certificate for Dorothy. And the bottom, the arrow at the bottom points to where it tells us how the proof is between one generation and the next. And the documents are legible and numbered. This is seen, you can see up all the way up at the top, there's document 2-1. It's circled in red so that you can see it. And this is her immigrant ancestor, Bernard King. You see, Kay was following her mother's name, or mother's line, and her mother's mother was Agnes King. So Dorothy's mother is Agnes King. None of the, notice on the line for full name, we have Agnes King, Walton Hogan Murphy. Agnes was married 3 times and outlived all of her husbands. So Kay lists John Walton as the spouse because he was Dorothy's father. But also, Kay provided us with the marriage records for all 3 of those marriages because we had to know how Agnes got from being a King to being a Walton, to being a Hogan, to being a Murphy. And the marriage licenses are what proved how she got to be from one name to the next name. Let's see. So working backward, Agnes King's birth record indicates her parents were Brian King. Brian? I thought her father's name was Bernard, but we'll see in a second. Her mother's name was Maggie Brown. Could Kay be any more Irish? So this is Agnes's death certificate. And you see it says Byron King was her father, and her mother is not known, which is interesting because Bernard's daughter, Elizabeth, is the person who gave the information for this death certificate, and you would have thought she knew who her mother was. But we think that the Byron King is just a typographical error, and not anything for us to get completely worried about. But we did worry a little. So the biggest hurdle that Kay worried about was generation 4. Her great-grandfather was known in records as Brian, Byron, Barney, and Bernard, all last name King. And so she worried about how was she going to prove that all of those people by those 4 different names were the same person. So the key for proving that all the people under all 4 of those names was the same person was found not only in his records, but in the records of his children. And so it's important for you to see how Kay goes about proving that. Oh, and notice down at the bottom, I'm sorry, I moved. For generation 5, Bernard King's parents were James King and Catherine Eggleston. Okay. So from an index on the Meath Heritage website, Kay found the baptism for Bernard King with parents James King and Catherine Eggleston, and he was baptized 13 October 1840 in parish Bohermeme in County Meath, Ireland. I do apologize to all of you people who are Irish if I mispronounced that town. I am not Irish. So this is the full page of the actual baptism record. And Kay put an arrow next to the record that was for Bernard King, and I circled it in red because it was a little bit hard to read. Notice there's a full page of that baptism record. We want the full page. If it's not readable, we want the full page, and we want you to then make an enlargement of the one that's just the record for, in this case, Bernard, so that it's easier for us to read. But we want both. We want that full page, and then we want the blow up if it's necessary. This one was clear enough for us to read, and we didn't need to blow it up. On the back of this record, Kay wrote all of the information she needed to document the source of where she found this record, so that any of us could go back to that, following her steps here, we could go back to that baptism of Bernard King in Bohermeme, in Diocese of Meath in Ireland, to find that record. Brian King, son of James King and Catherine Eggleston. And don't you love this priest? Isn't he the best priest? Because he's got the appearance of the people getting married. Brian King married Margaret Brown in April of 1872 at St. Lawrence O'Toole Catholic Church in St. Louis. Then Byron King dies, and the death certificate shows that it's Byron, not Bernard, not Brian, not Barney. So let's see. Okay, so here's the puzzle. Got ahead of myself there. Born Bernard King in Ireland. He died Byron King in St. Louis. So how did Kay determine Bernard and Brian were the same person? Well, she used several genealogy tools. She created a timeline of Bernard, Barney, Byron, and Brian using any record where she found him, including baptism, marriage, death, city directories, newspaper articles, census records, and any other record she could find to help her create this timeline. Starting with his death certificate, she includes information that includes his address, his name, the date, what document it was, and then she's got a column for notes that explains what it is she was looking at. On his death certificate, the information included his address and his occupation, but no exact date of birth was included on his death certificate. The name of his parents, James King and Catherine Eggleston, was given on the death certificate. And we've seen that already on his baptism record and on the marriage record for them. And it lists Brian's occupation as working for the city fire department. That's an important piece of information. The other thing that's important is, see that address way up at the top, 4549 Gibson. You're going to see that address again. So lots of indirect kind of evidence that's helping us form a picture here. So here's Kay's timeline. It looks prettier if you look at it not in PowerPoint, but you kind of get the idea that, look at how many times we see that address of 4549 Gibson Avenue. Look at how many times we see son of, and it has his parents' names. So that's an important thing to keep adding to your timeline to figure out how are these people all one person? So Kay's timeline actually helps us solve the puzzle, but also newspaper articles helped her put the family in a place. So this is a 1912 article about a runaway bride named Agnes King. I believe we've all seen that name before. So Agnes provides an address and the name of her parents, but also provides Look at that. 4549 Gibson Avenue was where she had been held a prisoner. Her parents didn't want her to marry the person she was marrying, by the way. And it names her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Bernard King. So indirect evidence listed in this newspaper article. So then we have another newspaper article. And what does it say? It says Barney King, father of 11, loves to I can't read it, it's too small. Anyway, Barney King, okay. Kay's great-grandfather worked for the city fire department, according to his death certificate. And on the 3rd of January, 1910, Barney King was featured in an article in the St. Louis Star newspaper. That's a picture of Barney, by the way, in his uniform. Isn't he handsome in that uniform? The article includes his picture and a picture of all of his children and his wife. It also referred to him as both Bernard and Barney in this same article. Can I just say, wouldn't you all love to have this newspaper article about your family? I know I would, and I guarantee you I have never found such an article about my family. It made me incredibly jealous when Kay was bragging about this. So the newspaper headline read, Barney King, father of 11, loves to forget awful dangers of fires he's fought. Fires he's fought. And then later in the article, it says, Bernard King. And he was the father of 11 children. He's driven the same fire engine for the last 29 years. So Bernard King's a fireman, Barney King's a fireman. Somewhere else in this article, it tells us that the family lived at 4549 Gibson Avenue. We've seen all of those clues before, but this was sort of the biggie that helped tie Barney, Bernard, and Brian all together. For residents before 1865, Kay uses the Civil War registration because it is done in July of 1863, and we see, I can't remember which name is in there. I believe it is Barney. Barney King is listed in the Civil War registration in 1863. But that puts him in St. Louis at on a specific date in a specific time frame. Perfect, just what we're looking for. So for you to complete the process, you're going to read the first family's instructions carefully, and failure to follow those instructions could mean that your application is held up or delayed because we need more information. You complete the information, you fill in all the blanks that apply to your family, you be sure each piece of documentation is readable and it is sourced so that any other genealogist can find that same source again. It's translated so that the 3 members of the First Families Committee can read it in English and not in that foreign language. Then you number each document and you add that information to the application. Then you attach the documents to the application and you submit your application to First Families along with your check for the application fee. That would be $30 if you're a member of the society. $30 is for your first application. If you submit on multiple people in your family, every application after the first is $15. And then a committee independently reviews your application. So it takes time for the process to move forward. If there are any questions, we're going to contact you either by telephone or email to request either clarification or additional information. So when the committee approves your application, you're going to receive a letter of approval. You're going to receive a certificate suitable for framing. And on your first application, you'll receive a First Families pin, which looks exactly like that very first slide you saw when you first came on to the class. And you'll see it again. It's the very last slide in the presentation. So that's what your pin is going to look like, but you only get the pin on the first time you submit an application. If you submit a document, say for instance, your birth certificate, your marriage license, we're going to return those to you. We do not keep documents that have to do with people who are living. So you will get those back. But we still, when you submit them, we really only want you to send us a copy, a photocopy, not the original document. So do you have any questions for me about the First Families program? Let me say one other thing, just as a clarification. If you're submitting the application and you want you and your two children to each get a pin and a certificate that you can frame, for each person you want to get a certificate, they have to join the society for $40 and they have to submit the $30 application fee. So you can't get multiple people under your one dues and one application fee. Okay, let me come back on, and then you can see what I look like for 1 second here.
I don't have any questions in here. I'm a little concerned that possibly this was not activated, that function was not activated because I don't see any.
Ooh.
And I figured we'd probably have some. So I'm hoping that I didn't accidentally not
Uh-oh.
um
Couldn't I ask questions now?
well, yeah, absolutely you can. Yes, but the fact that I'm not seeing any in the Q&A, I'm wondering if
Yeah.
it's not enabled.
And hopefully that means I didn't completely
Or
confuse you or scare you to death.
or it means you were, no, we got one now. Or I was going to say, or it means you were so clear that no one has any. Oh, okay. We have someone who said they attended college with you. They attended U of Mo with you.
Yeah, that's where I went a
And
long time ago.
we had another participant say thank you for the presentation. It was very thorough and informative.
Oh, thank you.
I'm trying to think while I wait to see if we have any more. I'm trying to think if I had any issue we're going through. Let's see.
Oh, here's one other
go
thing
ahead.
I will tell you. We've had applications where, for instance, on a marriage record, they'll tell us an exact date, an exact place where the person got married, but there's no document to show us the proof of that information. So because I'm a curious, actually nosy genealogist, a couple of times I've gone in and just looked to see if I can find the marriage. And quite frankly, if I can find the marriage, so can they. And we will not supply you with information for your application, but we will say to you, you do realize that marriage is on Family Search and you can get a copy of the marriage and submit it to us from Family Search. So don't leave things blank because it makes us go, how do they have an exact place of marriage and an exact date of marriage, but they don't have the documentation to go with it? So, there are certain things, and we encourage you to come into the office and talk to us. We're not mean people. We're sort of nice, and we'll help you at least understand better what's going on.
Yeah. Okay, we have another question. If you find an ancestor that is at a level above the one you get approved for, can you add it later? Meaning it's if it was in the same direct line. So you can sort of upgrade, I guess.
And that'll cost you a mere $15 if you're still a member of the society. So that would be your subsequent application. We've had people they like were St. Louis to the bone. We've literally had people who have had 10 applications for First Families because everyone in their family was a St. Louisan. And especially people who were founding, they have so many people that were back that far that, husbands, wives,
Right.
yeah, so yes, you can add that person. And what you can do is you still have to fill it all out. But if we do still have your application and all the documentation for the first person. So what you're going to do is tell us that, you've already done application for John Smith and now you're adding Tom Smith.
Going back
So
even
you
further.
don't have to supply all the documentation
Yeah.
all the way to Tom Smith. You just have to supply the documentation from John Smith to Tom Smith.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
that made sense.
Yeah. Wonderful. Okay. I'm seeing if anybody has any more. I think you did a great job explaining that, Vicky, because I don't think we have any more questions. If you did not get the email, I went ahead and sent the link to everyone that Vicky mentioned, where you can just kind of go right to that information on their website. Go ahead and utilize that, or you can go the way she said, clicking on the various parts of the website. I would also encourage you, even if you find out that you don't have anyone that qualifies for this lineage society, I would definitely encourage you, while if you're on their website, to check out all of the neat things that they have and possibly consider becoming a member of the St. Louis Genealogical Society. You don't have to have someone who came before 1865 to take advantage of the resources that they have.
Can I ask one question? The person who went to college with me, would you send an email to firstfamilies@stlgs.org and let me know who you are?
Yes, I hope that she got that. I just want to say we just make it a point to not say names out loud on these.
Yeah, we don't
so that's
either.
why I couldn't say it. But yes, hopefully she'll get in touch with you that way.
And Robin is right about how much information we have on our website. We have people transcribing records every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. We have, I don't know how many different congregations. We have indexed 1.7 million burials in St. Louis, all on our website. And there's just an enormous amount of information that's on our website. And I've done genealogy for 43 years, lived in St. Louis my whole life. I'm always surprised to find ancestors on our website that I think, oh, they didn't live in St. Louis. Yes, they did. They were at least here long enough to have, create a record. So, if nothing else, I encourage you to join and look through everything that we've got in the that we've indexed and looked for: congregations, funeral homes, cemeteries. I can't even tell you everything that we've done.
Yeah, it's a lot of great stuff. And those of you who have used the library services before for research, what you find is that genealogy records and indexes and clues and things like that, they're not all in one place. So the library has a lot of resources. Places like the Missouri Historical Society have a lot of resources. The St. Louis Genealogical Society has a lot of resources. So sometimes, and sometimes we share a lot of the same information, but we have some things that are different. They have some indexes that we don't have, and vice versa. So we have another question. I have ancestors listed in the book about the founding of Chesterfield. Is that considered documentation?
No. It would have had to, in the book, the founding of Chesterfield, it would have to have the documents that show relationship from one generation to the next. So for the most part, printed records like that, books are usually not documentation that we accept.
Okay. I think that's common among a lot of the lineage societies, is because it is a secondary source. It is not something that was created at the time the event happened. So, so for you with the Chesterfield people, what you want to do is take that information that you learned about your family from that Chesterfield book and go and chase after the actual documents that prove that those people were in Chesterfield. That is St. Louis County. There are plenty of, records out there for St. Louis County. And so if you need help, you can go to the society, you can come into the library, and maybe we can point you in the right direction to find those actual records.
Yeah. For that early in Chesterfield, I'd be tracking down probate records and land records. And I do believe St. Louis County Library, History and Genealogy has both of those things. So they're a good resource for you to go and track those down. But it's fascinating how often you see land being willed from one generation to the next, and they name all of their children. I, Tom Smith, will to Betty and Susie and Tom and whatever, and it names all of their kids, and sometimes it even gives the girls married names. Yay, good information. So land records and probate records are good for those early generations.
And we do have church records as well. So
Mhm.
for your Chesterfield, if they were of a particular religion,
Mhm.
maybe trying to ascertain that and then seeing if we possibly have church records
Yeah.
that would cover that as well. That would be another thing that you could
Right.
look
And
at.
if you don't, we might. So yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Another thing, while I wait to see if we have any more questions here, I I was not aware that census records were not, I mean, I'm assuming you could provide them maybe for some, secondary, like if you're trying to figure out their name or something, with the Byron Bernard type of thing, but that's not
Right.
actually a document that is
Right.
proves the lineage from one to the next. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody heard that, because census records are something that, the first document that genealogists go for. But
Absolutely.
for
Yeah.
this, it's
Yeah.
not enough.
Yeah, part of the issue is that,
Mhm.
1850, 1860, and 1870 don't even have a relationship.
Right.
So you don't know if that person who's living in that household is a child, a niece, a nephew, a grandchild, whatever. So that for sure is not proof of relationship. What a census does do, though, is put you in a place in time. So if you've got somebody in an 1850 or 60 census in St. Louis, then that's good documentation for placing them in St. Louis. It just doesn't prove a relationship.
So the census does work for the placement in St. Louis before 1865. It does not work for the lineage portion.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. All right. We have another question. This is probably for me. How do we access the recording of this Zoom presentation to listen to it again? We will be putting this up on the library's website, YouTube channel. Give us a couple weeks to get it up there. We don't do it ourselves. We have to kind of pass it along. So we'll have it up there at some point, though. And then we have another comment. Thank you for a great program. Excited to apply for my Sal Green and Von Poole ancestors.
Yay. I'll be looking for that one.
Yeah, and I have to say, I've been doing this not as long as Viki has, but about 20 years. And I just as she was speaking, it dawned on me that I had a couple of people that I could
Well,
get into the
excellent.
get in there as well. So so I'm
Yay.
excited to do it just like you are.
Yay.
Yeah.
I was a member for about 40 years before I finally did my first family's application. And so it's like, I understand there was other things I was doing, and all of a sudden I went, hey, I'm eligible for first families. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
totally get that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do
Um,
encourage you to join first families. Like I said, I think I said this in the we're getting ready to have our family history conference May 4th. And so in the syllabus for that, we will list like all of the founding ancestors and who's the person who submitted their application and their name. It won't have any other information other than that. But while people are sitting there in the waiting for a talk to begin, they're like, hey, I have that family in my line. I could join first families. So that's why we encourage you to let us put it in when we say in a publication, that's what we mean. It's going to go into the syllabus for the Family History Conference in May, which is usually April or May.
Sorry about that. Do you want to tell them a little bit more about the Family History Conference on May 4th as well?
Yes, I can. It is our featured speaker this year is David Rencher. If you are Irish and you missed this conference, you are not going to be a happy camper. David was for years the director of the Family History Library in Salt Lake City, and David is an expert on Irish research. So he's going to do 4 talks, some about the Family History Library, some about Irish. We also have 2 people from the State Historical Society of Missouri. They are coming from Columbia. One is going to talk about their manuscript collections. The other one is going to talk about their newspaper collections. And both of those 2 topics are amazing topics. And we have I think Jim Ross is going to talk about, I think this is right. I think Jim Ross is going to talk about Roots Magic, I think. And I cannot for the life of me remember who the
Well, it's
What
Brent,
is Brent?
I believe. So,
I think it is. I
also
think it's
one
Brent.
of the speakers on that day
Yeah.
will be the manager of the History and Genealogy
Yeah.
Department here at the St. Louis County Library, and he will be talking about the new building at the new Clark Family Branch, and
Yeah.
all about when we'll be moving over there and what people can expect over there. So if you are interested in learning more, and genealogists are, always want to learn more, this would be a great opportunity, and you can find more information about it on their website.
Yes. And we will be selling new books, and we have what we refer to as the trading post, which are new and gently used books. And we will have all of those at the Family History Conference also. Some people, if you want to pick up what some people tell me, because I'm in charge of the books. So people tell me I underprice books, but to me, it's better for them to be in somebody's loving hands than to be on the shelf in our office. So you can pick up very, very, very reasonably priced, used and gently used books in our trading post.
Somebody asked, when is the May conference? And I believe it is on the 4th. It is
I
May
think that's
4th.
right.
It is May the 4th. Be with you this year. And it is that's a Saturday, and it is an all-day event. I think it's from like 9 to 3, I think.
I
So
think
it's an
that's
all-day
right.
event. There are like Viki was mentioning, there are multiple speakers, so you will have to sort of decide. I think at any given point, maybe there will be 2 speakers, so you have some flexibility with what you want to learn about on that day.
But also we will record every lecture. So if you want to spend the day with David, then you can listen to the other 4 lectures on there'll be like a Zoom link for you to go to on our website that will take you to hearing the other 4 lectures. I'll be working that day, so I'm going to be listening to all 8 of the lectures that way.
Yeah. And then one more comment. And also before I get to that one, where is it being held this year?
Maryland Heights Community Center,
Okay.
up off of McKelvey Road.
Okay. So hopefully the attendee got that information. And again, website, I think if you go to your website, stlgs.org, I think there's conference. I think you can click on something right on the front page about the conference.
It's right there. It's big, and you can't miss it. Yeah.
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 And then also I said we don't say names when we do these Zoom presentations, but we did have a comment from someone saying they enjoyed hearing about their family.
Oh, that must be, I know who.
So yeah,
I thought I saw her name on the participant list. So
so thank you all for joining us. I hope you learned some interesting new information, and hopefully you'll get to work on those applications for first families. And thank you so much, Viki, for joining us. I'll go ahead
thank you for
and
asking.
yes, we would love to have you back sometime. And again, thank you, everybody. Everybody have a wonderful day. I will go ahead and end the presentation. Have a good day, everyone.
Bye.